Before we continue, if you're looking for a philosophy that doesn't lull you to sleep but awakens you, subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and write in the comments, "I choose to create my own life." Now, let's truly begin. Most people believe they are living, when, in reality, they are merely functioning. They wake up, work, consume, sleep. They repeat opinions. They reproduce values. They call this identity. Nietzsche observes this with brutal clarity. The modern human being lives like an echo, not like a voice. He does not decide, he reacts. He does not create, he copies. He does not affirm, he asks for permission. And this does not happen out of malice, but out of fear. Fear of making mistakes, fear of rejection, fear of being alone with one's own choices. For Nietzsche, this is the root of human weakness, the refusal to take responsibility for one's own existence. Nietzsche calls this phenomenon herd morality. It is the morality that says, do not stand out, do not question too much, do not be intense, do not go too far. It rewards obedience and punishes singularity. The problem is not the rule itself. The problem is never having chosen the rule. When you live only according to inherited values, your life is not creation. It is passive inheritance. Nietzsche does not criticize society for existing. He criticizes the individual who hides within it. Creating your own life does not begin with great external decisions. It begins with a violent inner gesture, questioning everything that seems obvious. Why do you believe what you believe? Why do you desire what you desire? Why do you fear what you fear? Nietzsche states, whoever does not question their values will never be free. And here true courage emerges. Not the heroic courage of movies, but the silent courage of looking at yourself and admitting, perhaps I am living wrongly. The will to power is not empty ambition. It is life's impulse toward expansion. It is the desire to become stronger, more conscious, more responsible for oneself. It manifests when you choose to grow, even when it hurts. For Nietzsche, whoever avoids discomfort abandons their own power. The creative life is not comfortable. It is intense. Up to this point, Nietzsche has shown us something disturbing. Perhaps the greatest danger is not failing, but never trying to become who you are. There is one question that deeply troubled Friedrich Nietzsche. If the human being has the potential to create their own life, why do most people not do it? The answer is not simple, but it is cruelly honest. Most people do not choose a small life because they lack ability, but because of psychological necessity. The modern human does not worship ancient gods. He worships security, emotional security, financial security, social security, moral security. Nietzsche realized something few are willing to accept. Security requires the renunciation of creation. To be safe, you must accept ready-made rules, repeat paths already tested, live within what is predictable. Creating your own life, on the other hand, requires walking where there are no guarantees, and that is frightening. Creating your own values comes at a high price: loneliness. When you stop thinking like everyone else, you stop automatically belonging. Nietzsche knew this deeply. He wrote much of his work in isolation, not out of arrogance, but because thinking differently pushes people away. Most people prefer to be wrong in a group than right alone, and that choice shapes entire lives. Here we enter one of Nietzsche's most explosive concepts: resentment. Resentment is born when someone cannot create, cannot affirm, cannot grow, so they begin to deny. Instead of saying, I cannot, the resentful person says, that is wrong, this is immoral, this is dangerous. Nietzsche argues, many moral values were not born from strength, but from the revenge of the weak against the strong, an attempt to pull the other down. Thus arise moralities that say, ambition is selfishness, intensity is excess, strength is arrogance, desire is guilt, not to make the world better, but to make everyone equal. Nietzsche saw this as a leveling downward, a collective anesthesia against greatness. Nietzsche never promised that creating your own life would bring constant happiness. On the contrary, he promised inner conflict, ruptures, doubt, moments of chaos. But he also promised something rare, a life that makes sense to the one who lives it. The alternative is worse, a comfortable life and an empty one. Creating your own life does not begin with changing the world. It begins with a silent act, stopping lying to yourself, stopping yourself from saying, that's just how it is. I have no choice. Everyone lives like this. Nietzsche would say, these phrases are existential crutches. As long as you rely on them, you do not walk on your own legs. Whoever decides to create their own life enters unstable territory. Old values stop working. New ones do not yet exist. Nietzsche called this moment a crossing, a state between who you were and who you do not yet know how to be. Most people give up here because living without solid ground is uncomfortable. So far, we have learned something harsh. The greatest enemy of creation is not the world. It is the desire for security, approval, and belonging. Friedrich Nietzsche never believed that the human being is born ready-made. For him, the individual is something that must be built, or else never truly comes into existence. And here lies one of the most misunderstood ideas of his philosophy. Not every human being actually becomes an individual. Most remain merely a product. Before creating your own life, there is an unavoidable step: destroying old values. This does not mean attacking everything and everyone. It means something more difficult: stopping automatic obedience. Nietzsche believed that many of the values we follow were not born from reflection, were not born from choice, were not born from strength. They were inherited, imposed, repeated. Creation requires space, and space only appears when something old falls. Nietzsche described the birth of the creative individual in 3 symbolic stages. The camel. The camel is the one who carries burdens. It accepts duties, rules, expectations. It is obedient, resilient, but it does not yet create. Most people die here. The lion. The lion learns to say no. No to impositions. No to values that diminish it. The lion destroys, questions, breaks apart, but it still does not create. It only clears space. This stage is lonely, conflict-filled, and dangerous. The child. The child symbolizes the creator. It says yes to life. It invents, experiments, fails, begins again. The child creates new values without asking permission from the past. Here, one's own life is born, because destroying old values is painful, and creating new values is even riskier. To create means to assume total responsibility, to stop blaming God, society, or the past, to sustain the consequences of one's own choices. Nietzsche said, "Freedom is more frightening than prison because it offers no excuses." The creative individual does not seek comfort. He seeks intensity. Comfort numbs. Intensity awakens. A life created by yourself is not easier. It is more alive. Nietzsche did not want you to be happy all the time. He wanted you to be true to yourself. Creating your own life is not a linear path. You will make mistakes, retreat, doubt, feel fear, and all of this is part of creation. Nietzsche saw error not as a moral failure, but as building material. Those who do not err do not create. They only repeat. Here is one of Nietzsche's most powerful ideas: to live as if your life were a work of art. Not perfect, but authentic. Full of risk, contrast, and personal style. You do not copy a work of art, you create it. And the same applies to life. Up to this point, we have seen that. Creating your own life requires destruction. It requires solitude. It requires responsibility. It requires continuous courage. There is an idea in Nietzsche that was not created to explain the world. It was created to test you. Friedrich Nietzsche called this idea the eternal recurrence. And no, it is not merely a theory about time. It is a brutal question. Imagine that a demon appears before you and says, "This life you are living now, every pain, every joy, every choice, you will have to live it again, in exactly the same way, for all eternity. Nothing can be changed. Nothing can be corrected. Everything returns. Now answer honestly, would you curse this demon, or would you call him divine?" Nietzsche was not interested in knowing whether time truly repeats itself. What matters is something else. Are you living in a way you could wish to repeat? If the answer is no, something in your life is being lived against yourself. The eternal recurrence is a cruel mirror. It reveals whether you are affirming life or merely tolerating it, because it destroys the great human excuses. It's just a phase. I'll change later. One day I'll start living for real. In the future, things will be different. The eternal recurrence says, there is no later. There is only this moment, repeated infinitely. Whoever accepts the eternal recurrence changes their posture toward life. Every decision gains weight. Every choice becomes meaningful. Not because someone is judging, but because you will have to live with it forever. This is not guilt. It is radical responsibility. To accept the eternal recurrence does not mean loving every detail of life. It means something deeper. saying yes to existence as a whole, to the pain that shaped you, to the mistakes that taught you, to the falls that strengthened you. Nietzsche called this amor fati, the love of fate, not resignation, affirmation. A consciously created life is the only one that can be wished again. Those who live only by obeying, wait for everything to pass, dream of another life, live in escape mode. But those who create, assume, sustain, affirm. Nietzsche believed that only the strong spirit can look at their own life and say, "Yes, I want this again." Nietzsche leaves us a practical tool. Before acting, ask yourself, would I accept living the consequences of this eternally? If the answer is no, perhaps you are betraying yourself. This criterion does not moralize, it reveals. Creating your own life is not about seeking a perfect life. It is about creating a life you fully assume, with flaws, with risks, with scars. The eternal recurrence demands courage because it allows no psychological escape. It demands presence. Now you have seen why most people flee from creation, how the creative individual is born, and how the eternal recurrence tests the authenticity of a life. We have reached the decisive point. Up to now, philosophy may seem intense, deep, but distant from everyday life. Nietzsche never wanted that. Friedrich Nietzsche did not write for comfortable academics. He wrote for those at existential risk. Now the question is no longer, what did Nietzsche think? It is, how do we live today as someone who creates their own life? After an awakening, there is a silent danger, returning to autopilot. Routine swallows you. Expectations return. Fear reappears disguised as prudence. Nietzsche would warn, the greatest enemy of the creator is not the world. It is the exhaustion of sustaining one's own singularity. Creation requires constant vigilance. Many understand self-overcoming as a final destination. Nietzsche saw it as a continuous movement. You do not overcome yourself once. You overcome yourself every day. That means abandoning old versions of yourself, recognizing when a value no longer serves you, having the courage to change direction. Loyalty is not to the past. It is to your potential for growth. Creating your own life does not require grand gestures all the time. It is built in the details, in how you choose your time, react to pressure, deal with failure, define success. Nietzsche would say, if your values were not chosen consciously, they are using you. Let's be honest. Creating your own life is costly. You may lose approval, comfort, automatic belonging. Some people will not understand. Others will criticize. Some will drift away. Nietzsche did not romanticize this. He simply said, this is the price of authenticity. The creator's solitude is not abandonment. It is inner space. It is there that new ideas arise, new values mature, decisions cease to be reactive. Nietzsche believed that whoever cannot endure being alone will never hear their own voice. Creating your own life is not denying suffering. It is giving meaning to it. It is not avoiding chaos. It is learning to dance with it. Nietzsche did not want you to be pure, correct, or exemplary. He wanted you to be whole. Someone who looks at their own existence and says, it was difficult, it was risky, but it was mine. Before every major choice, remember the question of the eternal recurrence. Would I accept living this again, forever? If the answer is yes, go forward, even with fear. If it is no, reconsider, even if everyone approves. Nietzsche left us a task, not a doctrine. Not to follow in his footsteps, but to have the courage to walk on our own legs. Creating your own life is a permanent risk, but not creating it is a guaranteed loss. If this video made you think differently, subscribe to the channel and share it with those who are still living on autopilot. Here, philosophy is not meant to comfort, it is meant to awaken. In the next videos, we will continue this direct confrontation with ideas that do not ask for permission. Until next time.